Hey, what's up everyone? This is MusicTechHelpGuy and welcome to the first of many Logic Pro 11 tutorials. In this video, I'm going to give you a full tutorial on how to use the new global chord track in Logic 11. This is an incredible tool for composition, arrangement, and even learning about music theory and building chord progressions. And it's also tied into the session bass player and session keyboard player tracks. These types of tracks will automatically follow the chord track. But before I get into the tutorial, I've got to quickly tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Boombox. Are you tired of juggling multiple platforms just to collaborate on music? Say goodbye to endless email chains and say hello to Boombox, the all-in-one solution for music makers like you. Share, store, and collaborate like never before with secure file storage, collaborative projects, and shareable playlists. Your collaborators can leave time-stamped feedback on your tracks, making it easier than ever to refine your sound. And you can upload just about any type of file, multi-tracks, stems, mix bounces, even full DAW sessions. Whether you prefer working on the Boombox web app, the mobile app, or the Boombox Sync app for macOS, Boombox has you covered. With features like time-stamped comments and voice notes for remote collaborations, and a universal music player, Boombox was built specifically with music makers in mind. Head over to boombox.io today and get 4 GB of free storage. Okay, so I'm just going to start from scratch. I'm going to start with a keyboard player, session player track. For the character, I'm just going to use block chords to sort of keep it simple. And then you can choose to use a default chord progression for any new session player regions. So I'll just click create. And what you'll see is it automatically creates a keyboard player track with the session player region on it. And up top, you can see it's come up with a default chord progression. Let's give this a listen. So I'm in the key of C major, but if you change your key signature, this will give you the option to transpose the chord progression. So right now in C major, this is like a 1, 2, 6, 6 progression. Let's switch over to D minor. And what this will do is it'll ask you, do you want to transpose your chords? I'm going to say yes. And what you'll see is now the chord progression is F, G minor, D minor, D minor. So instead of starting on 1, it's sort of saying that F is a 3 chord, G minor is the minor 4 chord, and then we're going to the minor 1 on D minor. Now to access the chord track, you can click here to open up the global tracks, or you can press G to hide and show this. Now, if you click on a chord progression, it's going to select the whole chord progression. And if you press delete, it's just going to go back to the tonic chord, the chord that represents the key. So here it's just going to be all D minor. So I could create my own chord progression bar by bar by just simply setting the playhead somewhere, and then clicking the plus button here on the chord track. And then you can choose what root note you want. This is the bottom note of the chord. So make that D. We'll make it a minor chord. And let's make this a minor 7th chord, D minor 7. And just for fun, let's play around with the Phil Collins In the Air Tonight chord progression. So in that chord progression, it's in D minor. It goes from D minor down to C. So I'm going to set the playhead right here at bar 2, and I'm going to click the plus button, and this will be a C major triad, just like that. Let's slow this down a bit. Let's go to 80 BPM. Now, there are some other ways to enter in chords. Another way to do this is to right-click or control-click, and you can select Create Chord. So you can do that as well. I'm going to click here on the root note. I'm going to choose a B-flat major triad this time. And so now you can see we have D minor 7, C, B-flat. Now, if I want to add another C chord here, I could just create it by pressing the plus button or right clicking, but I can also double click to select an individual chord within the progression. And once you double click, you can just single click to isolate each chord. And then you can hold Option, and you can actually drag this over. And you can also alter the rhythmic placement of the chord. You can trim it. So there's a lot of options for controlling the rhythm of the chord as well. Just for now, I'm going to stick with all whole notes. But let me show you another way to enter in chords even a little quicker so you don't have to keep clicking the plus button or right clicking or control clicking. If you go up to your key commands, so Logic Pro key commands, edit assignments, or just press Option K, search up the words create chord, and you'll see there is a key command available to create chords. So I'm going to select this key command, click learn by key position, and the one I found that is available is Control Option Command C. So now anytime I want to create a new chord, I just set the playhead wherever I want it to go. And I'm going to go ahead and snap to the bar here, just to be precise. Press Control Option Command C, and now I can create a new chord. So maybe this time I want another D minor chord. One of the other really cool things about this chord dialog is you can actually type in the chord. So if I want a D minor 7 again, I can do that. Or if I just want a D minor, I can do that too. Then I can use the greater than less than brackets to tab over to the next chord. Control Option Command C. This one I want to be C major. Tab over. Control Option Command C. Let's make this B flat. And I'm just using a lowercase b for the flat symbol. Again, tab over. Then I can enter in my last chord. There is one other way to create chords. You can use the pencil tool as well if you prefer that route, but I just feel like using the pencil tool is a waste of time. I'd prefer to just use my own custom key command. Now, chords in your chord progression are going to be grouped together. So when you select them, they're all going to be selected. Again, if you double click, this allows you to select individual chords. However, if you want to break these up, you can right click or control click and select ungroup chords. And so now each chord will essentially be seen as its own independent chord progression. If you hold Shift and select multiple chords, right click or control click again, you can regroup these into a progression. And then you can hold Option and drag things around. So if you want to duplicate that same progression over, it's as simple as holding Option and dragging. Okay, so let's go through some of these chords and maybe juice them up a bit. Let's make them a little more interesting. If you double click and then select a chord and then double click again, you can bring up the edit dialog, or you can just right click or control click on the chord and select edit chord. So that works as well. And so we've already gone over the root note. That's the bottom note of the chord. You can choose the quality of the chord up top here. So major triad, minor triad, sus2. This is where the third is moved down to the second. sus4. This is where the third is moved up to the fourth. 5 is a power chord. This is like a triad with no third. You have augmented triads, which are like a major triad with the fifth raised a half step. And then finally diminished, where it's like a minor triad with the fifth lowered a half step. And you can add other extended harmonies to this as well. Flat 5, sharp 5, add 6, major minor 7, major 7, flat 9, 9, sharp 9, 11ths and 13ths. But one of the other things you can do in addition to all of this is you can change the bass note. So for example, a C major triad is C, E, G. So if I said the bass note is E, this means that the third of the chord is in the bass. This would be called first inversion. Likewise, if I set G to the bass, that means the fifth is in the bass. So this would be second inversion. But the bass note doesn't necessarily have to be an inversion. In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins just pedals on D. So he's playing C major in the right hand, but still playing D in the bass. So a C over D chord is a totally valid chord. That just means it's a C major triad with a D in the bass. And we could do the same thing over here with the B flat chord. We could hit slash, press D, and now we have B flat over D. This would be a B flat first inversion triad. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll make this C over D. And again, all of these chords can just be typed in. For the most part, it will recognize the chord type that you're trying to create. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this progression and copy this over just like so. Let's give that a listen. Yeah, those are the right chords, but the rhythm's not right. Let's go into the session player here. I'm going to go into manual, and I'm going to type in a manual rhythmic pattern to follow here. And I move the left hand down a bit just so we get a lower octave. I've turned off the steady eighth note option. And again, I'm using this manual rhythm. Bum, 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 bum. Let's juice this up even more. This is just really awesome because it gives you the freedom to customize your chords as much as you want and instantly hear the results. So we've got D minor 7, C over D, B flat over D. Let's change up this C chord. Let's make this a C6 over D. And let's make this D minor 7 a D minor add 9. So we're going to take out the 7th. So it's just a D minor triad with a 9th added to it. Then we'll go C over D, B flat over D. And this last one, let's take out the root on D. Let's just give that a different color there. Yeah, that's sounding really cool. Okay, so let's break up some of these measures into multiple chords. How do you do this? Well, the chord track will follow whatever snap mode you have selected. So if I switch this over to division, maybe what I want to do is break up this D minor 7 chord into a D sus4 and then a D minor. So if I double click again, let's type in D sus4, or you can just select it here. That works as well. And then right here, I want another chord. And this time I just want it to be D minor. So now I have D sus4, then D minor. You'll just have to trim that over. So it's pretty simple to change up the rhythm of the chords. Let's do the same thing here. Let's take this C over D and let's make this a C sus2, but we're still going to put it over D. And then right here, let's add in just a standard C over D like we had earlier. And again, you've just got to make sure you trim this out, just like so. Let's experiment with a diminished triad. So right here, before we get to C, what is the note in between B flat and C? Well, B natural. So let's add sort of like a chromatic passing chord between these two chords. So I'm going to use B diminished, and I'm going to use a fully diminished 7th chord. If you choose this 7th, that's like a half diminished 7th chord. So this is a fully diminished 7th chord. Okay, so we're starting to get somewhere with our progression. Let's add in some other instruments to follow this arrangement. So first I'm going to create a new session player track, and I'm going to create a bass player. And for this, we're going to use the Roots upright bass. So you can hear the bass is actually following the root note that you're designating. So on the C over D chord, it's not playing a C, it's playing a D because it's following the bass. Let's add in some drums too, just to keep our timing. I'll use drummer for this. I'm going to use the Roots brush drummer. And then I'm going to choose the Dirt Road preset. Let's pull the intensity way down. I think this is just a glitch, but occasionally you'll see that the chord track disappears after pulling up one of your session players. If it does, just resize one of these and it'll pop back up there. It's just a little graphical glitch I've encountered. Now, the reason why I've brought in these two other session players is I want to show you how the session players can choose to follow the chord track or follow the rhythm of another track. So, for example, if I double click on the keyboard player, right here under the pattern, you can have it follow the rhythm of the chords or a particular track. Now, because I entered in a manual rhythm, it's not really going to matter all that much here. But if I go to the bass and I come down here, I can make this follow the chords, but I can also make it follow the rhythm of maybe the drums. So I'll choose the Blue Ridge kit. All right, let's juice this up a little bit more. Right here, right before it repeats at bar 5, let's add in another chord. I'm going to click the plus button here, and I want to show you this option here, MIDI Input. So if you're not sure what a chord is, you can click this button and then play in the chord on your MIDI controller. Now, it played drums because I had the Blue Ridge kit selected, but if I select this track, it'll actually play that chord. But that was just an A minor 7. That wasn't anything crazy. Let's go over to the end here. Let's add in another chord. Once again, I'll click MIDI Input. Let's play in the triad. So that's a C major 7. And it'll try to do a pretty good job of interpreting any chord you input. So if I want to add something even more complex here, so that it's saying it's a C major 7 with a 9th and a sus4. Okay, and we can add that chord in. So it'll do its best to interpret whatever chord you play in with your MIDI controller. Okay, so let's say we want to continue on the chord progression a little differently starting at bar 9. If you create a new chord here and then just don't do anything with it, and then right click or control click on this, you can actually use some pre-made generated chord progressions. So let's use this one here. This is a 1-7-6-5-7 progression. And then all you have to do to extend out the arrangement is just trim out your session players, and the session players will follow that new chord progression. Now, let's say that you want your chord progression to go a little faster. Maybe you want it to be double time. So instead of 1 chord per whole note, you want 2 chords per whole note. If you right click or control click on a progression and select double chord rhythm, this will make it go double time. And likewise, if you use half chord rhythm, this will give you a halftime feel. Now, one of the other really awesome things about using the chord track for building musical arrangements is how well it integrates with the signature track. So let's say at bar 9, I want to introduce a key change. So what I'm going to do right here at bar 9 is click the plus button on the signature track. We're going to create a new key signature. I'm going to set this to F minor. and then you can choose to transpose the chords on the chord track and in the session player regions. So let's go ahead and do that. And now it's taken that chord progression I had before here at bar 9, and it's transposed it to the key of F. It's the exact same chord progression. It's still a 1, 7, 6, 5 progression. It's just now in the key of F minor rather than the key of D minor. Check this out. And we're in a completely different key now at bar 9. Now, one last thing I want to show you is that your chord progressions can be colorized, just like your markers. So if you press Option C to bring up your color palette, you can select a chord progression, colorize it, select another one, colorize it, and select another one and colorize that one too. And so this can be helpful if you're trying to keep track of your different progressions in your arrangement. It's just a nice visual cue to have those colors. Now, if you wanted to copy and paste an entire section of your song and you want the chords to move along with it, the best thing to do is to select that area with the locators, with the cycle range, go up to Edit, and then go down to Cut Insert Time and select Cut or Copy section between locators. And then what you can do is, let's say at bar 17 here, we want to repeat that whole thing. You just set your playhead there, go up to Edit, Cut Insert Time, and then Insert Section at Playhead. And so not only will it copy those regions, it will also copy the chord track over as well. Okay, so that is the new chord track in Logic Pro 11. It's just a fantastic way to explore chord progressions and immediately hear the arrangement react to your chord changes. I think this is an incredible educational tool as well, because part of the disconnect when learning music theory is the ability to play the piano properly. A lot of beginners have minimal keyboarding skills, so this allows you to start working with chord progressions and learning about them without needing to play anything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. As always, thank you so much for the support, and thanks for watching.